Are you a naive woman? Welcome back to another episode of Healing into Femininity. It's me, Joanna, and let's dive right into it. So, I have just started watching this movie called Divorce in the Black with Megan Good by Tyler Perry. It was on YouTube. So, if you want to watch it, it was there for free. So, I just kind of stumbled over it and I just started watching it. And then I thought, okay, let me just create some content out of it because it ties into my talking points of women's empowerment. So, the talking point today here is being the naive woman. And I believe I have definitely been a naive woman for a long time. And I can tell you that actually I have equated naivety to being able to not let myself be like not letting my dreams or my pure heartedness being taken away from me by this world. So I want to make this very clear because it's a point I want to make. So I thought for a long time I purposefully continued to call myself a naive woman, and I continued to see myself as a naive woman because I thought being naive was to, which I think is something else, but I thought it's the same as not letting my light be dimmed or not allowing the world to take away my love and my positivity. But it's not the same. So I want to make the difference here. Naive is more of a psychological state of being unaware, right? Naivety is for me is only the light. Naive is also the whole love and light movement, where people are like really spiritual bypassing, like literally spiritual bypassing and pretending that you can go from inner child to heaven. It's kind of like that. You know, you're inner child, you're super naive, you're happy, which comes with it, like you're happy, you're pure-hearted, you're giving, you're radiating all this sweetness, but this is what makes you a prey to predators: the naivety, the unexperiencedness, right? The staying ignorant. Literally, it's about staying ignorant about the reality of the world, or the reality of duality, the reality of the darkness, the reality of that there are predators out here, that the system is set up to exploit you if you don't know your value and your worth. If you, that people will, yeah, the people try to take advantage of you if you are like only this la 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 la, life is so beautiful and I refuse to see the darkness. And this is what happens with a lot of, or this is what a lot of women experience. This is what I feel, that many women pretend, or like they want to stay ignorant to the fact that, I don't know the numbers exactly, but that the divorce rates are high, that many men are addicted to corn, that many men are not wealthy, that many men actually don't have the emotional intelligence or the social skills, or that they don't have passions, or like, or that they're actually taking advantage of you, that they just want to sleep with you, that they maybe even want your money or for the ladies who know about that, that men want to be with you because they can get a passport because of you. They can get a staying permit, an allowance to stay in the country, right? So all of these things, this is for me is the definition of a naive woman. You are unaware, like your heart is so good, but you haven't taken into account a level of reality. And the level of reality is that people will exploit you if you let them. And I have been that good girl. And in that movie, Divorce in the Dark, like Megan Goods, she plays this pastor's child, and she was this good girl. And everything screamed, this guy is not good for you. So the guy that she was with, she was married to, he was from a family. It looked like um, being with a single mother. And I'm just going to point out a few other things. But I said what I said, with a single mother who was extremely obese, so that shows me that she's not quite healthy. She was very bitter and she had only boys, I think four boys. And none of them went to school or they didn't go for education. Only her husband, like only the guy, maybe she was with him since middle school or whatever. And like he had an education, but he was still from this toxic family. And I didn't watch the whole movie, but the dynamic was that he actually, like, this is his people, and he still felt a strong allegiance to his people, to his mother and to his brothers, who were all criminals. And she was this very good girl coming from a good house. Her dad was a pastor. He actually also seemed integrous. Her mom was this good church lady. She was, of course, Megan Good, like she was beautiful. And she was with this guy. And then the story unfolded, and then it came out that this guy, like, he was drinking, he was still in this toxic relationship with his brothers and his mother. He didn't appreciate her. Then it kind of came out that he actually beat her, like no doubt, like no surprise. He beat her, and he also like spit on her. He didn't appreciate her. And then like he actually wanted to divorce her. So she was the representation of the naive woman. And she actually also said some phrases just like, oh, I thought I could love him back to life. And I took you guys, her parents, as the example. And I knew, like, you always taught, like, she talked to her mother and she said, you always taught me that people give up so easily on marriage and you have to endure a few things and stuff like that. And then her mother found out what her husband actually did to her. And then she also said, like, this is actually not what I meant by enduring things. So she was like the archetypal naive woman. And as again, like, ask yourself, if you're the naive woman, as I said, I have definitely been the naive woman for the longest, for the longest. And I also believe, like, that's just my point of view. I believe that this is actually like the last vestige, like, this is the last um the one of the, let's say, like, not the last, I don't know, like, that's just my personal evolution until this point here in my life, but I believe that this is quite a late realization when you are a good-hearted, loving woman that is also educated and smart and still also inquisitive and a little skeptical and critical thinking. So you have a few things in check already. Like, you know, you're a good girl, like, you have a good heart, but you also know, like, for example, for me, like, you know that, like, the food industry is bad, you know the pharmaceutical industry is bad, you know that, like, most of the systems, like the big things that we gain our supply from, is not healthy. It's not designed to support our life. It's actually designed to take our life. Okay, so I've known all of these things already, but the last vestige still, and I don't know what it is. I'm still like psychoanalyzing that topic. But I think for me personally, it was this: I want to keep the hope alive. I want to keep, let's say, the fantasy alive. I want to keep the fantasy alive of actually being able to find a man that is a good man, to find a man that is able to love me, and to find a man with whom I can live the fantasy, which is a big trap. Yeah, just like thinking that the world is a good place, just like thinking that the pharmaceutical company is your friend, or that the food industry is your friend, or other industries are your friend. It's another fantasy that you are. your life is going to be more complete with a man. It's a fantasy that we have all been indoctrinated by. And again, I want to create some nuance here. I am not against relationships. If I actually do believe that there are some good men out there, probably, absolutely, I still believe that. But I don't believe that I think it's not gonna be easy for me to find somebody who actually excites me like on a real level. So, but it was like the last vestige, and I want to point out a few things because me personally, I think one of my first relationship, my first real relationship was an abusive relationship. Let me come out of the closet with this as well. So I and this was also something that the ego does, right? I was a good girl at heart, but I wasn't really the typical good girl. So I kind of tricked myself into being smart, like thinking that I'm somehow better or smarter than other women, which is also a big lie, you know? So I thought I was a good girl at heart. And I thought that, and this is also something I think that the naive woman thinks, that's how I thought, this guy, he is gonna see how special you are, how different you are, and he sees my worth. I mean, hello, I see my worth. I think I'm great. Yeah, so he must see my worth. That's what I thought without double checking if he actually has a good character and all of that. Like it was in my like late teen years. So back then it wasn't, for me personally, it wasn't all about the things that matter when you are actually grown up. But he was the archetypal bad boy. He lied to me from the very beginning. He was a football player. He was actually probably a criminal as well. Um, then he took me on shopping sprees. Like he invited me. We stayed in a hotel, and I was 18 or 19, so that was still this was already like quite flashing, you know. So taking me out to buy clothes, like all of these brand clothes, staying in a hotel, going out to eat, like living the fancy life. And he was a football player, like he tried to, yeah, be a professional football player, and he kind of was, but he didn't go all the way. But like that was this guy, like the archetypal, whatever you want to call it, alpha male, and kind of flexing, the bad boy aesthetic, like maybe the rapper, the athlete aesthetic, all of that. And I thought, okay, like I naively thought like he likes me. And this is also what the good girl thinks. For me, it wasn't really that, but this is what I saw in the movie, that you want to please your parents or your community, or even you want to. And that's what I want to talk about. You actually it comes from an egoistic place as well. The good girl is not so good the way she thinks she's good. It's just a program because deep down inside, I think it's called the covert, not the overt, but she's more of the covert narcissist, or more of the covert, let's say, energy vampire. Because me, I thought, even though I was like in my bubble, and of course I wanted the experience, but it was also a look, right? So you want to go for the look. You want to be with this guy, not necessarily only because you think he's a nice guy, yeah, but also because of the look, of the aesthetic. And if you feel that way as a woman, question yourself, like, do you want to be with the aesthetic, or do you actually want somebody who is nice? So for me, I can see, looking back, it was also for the aesthetic and the experience. Like me, again, it's a fantasy, it's a shared fantasy. He thinks he's this football player or soccer, he's a soccer player, and I'm like this beautiful girl, like the video vixen or whatever. and and we're playing this game, like it's a I am in my main character energy, he's in his character energy. It doesn't match, but we look like it's a match. It's this picture of, like, yeah, this beautiful girl and this athlete. But I wanted it for the aesthetic. So the whole thing in my case, um it also fell apart. I'm going to share this more. But also looking at the movie, The Divorce in the Dark, or that's the name. Um, you don't really. Yeah, you think you can love people to life. You think you can love people to life. You're like, oh, I thought I could help him. Ugh, I thought I could help him. I thought I could be his therapy. That's the worst thing. But I was suffering from that disease as well. You think that you can help people. You think you can be the therapist, even if the person doesn't pay. I mean, I am a life coach today. I'm a licensed life coach, but if you don't pay, you're probably not valuing my service. So thinking that you can help somebody, thinking you can bring them to some kind of God, whatever your spiritual path is, thinking that you can heal them with your knowledge of self and with like some therapeutic ways. No, you can't. If the person doesn't ask you, you can't do it. But you think that you can help people, you can love them to life, you can nourish them, right? Which is also like this confusing concept that that women are told that we are nourishing and we want to nourish them and we want to love them, even though they're bad and mean to us. Another thing is that you don't want to share what's really going on in the relationship because of shame, number one, and because you want to keep the facade. And I think these are two different things. Shame is something that you actually feel, where you really feel like, oh my God. And maybe this is actually something also, it's a psychological thing that keeps you from yourself. Like you are telling yourself a story because otherwise you would feel the shame within. It has nothing to do with the other person or with your parents or with your friends or with other people. I believe shame is something as well where it is between you and you. Your higher self, your smarter self, your real self, the self that knows what's going on deep down, and the part of you that wants to be like, yeah, everything is fine. And actually, the ego, right? The ego being like, oh no, like this can't happen to me because actually I think that I do, like I am special. The ego will tell you, like, you're so special, he won't do this to you. You're so special, like he sees your worth. Oh, I am so special. I am different than other stupid women. This is also something that I definitely had, and I believe that other women have too. And this is something that we this is what I want to resolve here with us, like because we're the same. And I have realized at this point in my life that I've probably made all the mistakes that every other woman also does, like especially falling for stupid men, for the predator. And so this is what the psyche does, or the whole system, that you feel shame, and the shame will block your naive woman to get in contact with your more wise self, right? With your intuition, with the wiser part of yourself, with your higher self, however you want to call it. So that is what I call the shame between you and you. And then there is because you want to keep up the facade to others. So you also feel ashamed, or you know that you would feel embarrassed because it's not a good look, because then you would have to admit that you were stupid, and it makes you feel stupid. It makes you look stupid, it makes you feel stupid because it is stupid. But the truth will also set you free, right? But this is what happens with the good girl. She doesn't tell her friends. And this is also where I feel like it's the internal. Again, it's not always, sometimes in like these abusive, or if we want to call it narcissistic relationships, sometimes it is maybe the man who will keep the woman from the rest of her family or from her friends. But I also believe that many times it's the internal predator that will keep the woman away from other women. As I just said, like the shame. The shame is internalized. Nobody, like the guy might not even say things like, oh, you shouldn't say that to, like, don't tell anybody or whatever, but it's inside of you. Like you think, oh, I can't do it. I am not going to be vulnerable and open myself up even to my best friend. That's also in the movie. This girl, she had a best friend, and she actually seemed genuine and caring. But this girl, Megan Good, she didn't tell her best friend everything that was going on in the relationship because she felt ashamed, or she wanted to maintain a facade. Right. And this is also where I feel like it's the internal predator, it's the internal misogynist, it's the internal predator inside of us that will make us, like, that will seclude us from the people who could actually help us. I hope that makes sense. And and then another point I wrote down is, yeah, we can't admit to ourselves that, yeah, I think it's the same. It's just the yeah, just yeah. Okay. I'm losing words, but I love it. It's also an English lesson here for me. Mm, it's a How do you say, like, when you have one thought, elaborate? It's an elaboration. Okay, it's an elaboration of the thought of the shame, the internal shame, because it's about, you can't admit to yourself, right? You have this stupid, naive part that actually, oh, she's like, oh, I actually don't know better, but too prideful. The ego, or the internal predator, the ego will keep you from actually seeking knowledge and exchange and correction, because your inner self, the naive woman, is so vulnerable. She doesn't even dare to make it, like, she wants to keep the facade, right? So she can't admit to herself that she's in a toxic situation. Yeah, and that's the internal story that you tell yourself, and you're going to be like, uh yeah, I can't admit to myself that I have been like, I was stupid. I was naive, and I didn't respect myself. I had no self-respect. I had no boundaries. I was being exploited. I was played. Like, saying all these things and just admitting it to yourself, because it is, I think this is the biggest block to actually come out of a pattern, is to admit those things to ourselves. Oh yeah, that's true. I was an asshole. I was, or saying that, right? I was naive, I was stupid, I was being played, I was blind, I got fooled, to say all these things and admit that, because another part of you, the ego, makes you think that, oh no, not me, as I said before, like, no, not me, like, he won't do that to me, because I am so beautiful, I am so smart, and he knows it, I am so eloquent, I am such a good girl, coming from a good household, coming from good parents, he respects me. But one thing that I have learned just recently is that the psychology of a predatory man is especially wanting to tear down women who actually, like, claim or radiate a certain kind of position, who are actually really, like, they're educated, they are coming from a good household, they're doing well for themselves, they're smart, they're ambitious. And some men, like predatory men, will want to target exactly that woman and tear her down. Like, first you want her, and then when you can't control her, you want to tear her down. Just for you ladies to know, like, that is the psychology of the predatory men. So we are telling ourselves, like, no, not me. Oh my God, I have thought that for a long time. No, not me. Like, he won't do that to me, because he sees my value. As I said, he sees my value. He sees I'm precious. He sees that I'm smart, like, he can't do that with me. But the only way he can't do that with you, if you tell him you can't do that with me, or if you just don't pay him attention. That is it. But you can't play the game of thinking, oh no, he won't do that to me, so let me just go along without ever saying anything. And also, something that I saw in the movie was a woman then having selective memory of only seeing the good in the relationship. As I also just said, like, my boyfriend back then, who actually then, like, he was toxic all the way through. Like, he cheated on me. He lied to me. he wasn't nice to me, and then like he didn't respect me, and at the very end he like we had a physical altercation, and then I threw him out, and even then after that I like we broke up and we never got back together again. But I actually, and it's so embarrassing, but I'm just going to share it. After that, I actually lended him money, 1,000 euros back then, and I never got it back up until to this day. And this is like maybe it's almost, yeah, it's probably 17 years or something like that. What? Yeah. So it's gone, but I just want to, I want to share the story for healing purposes, and I hope that it can help you. So I was being the dumb one. I was being naive. He played me all the way. And it took me years to break out of that pattern. It took me years to break out of that pattern. But this was one of the worst relationships I've ever had. Actually, this guy, I think 2 years ago, he wanted to slide back into my DMs and be like, do you like I'm gonna invite you to a vacation. And then I said, dude, like you're still up until this day, you're the one who has hurt me and disrespected me the most. And then he threw some more shit on me. Wow. Like some people are just crazy, but you can't engage in that, but just know what's going on. So, yeah, having the selective memory of just thinking about the good times, how it was so beautiful, how he took me on the shopping spree, how we had this amazing hotel room, blah, 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 blah. Like we just think about the good things, but actually there were so many toxic things that happened, but we wanted to cancel it out because we are, and this is the thing about the naive woman, and then the transition into becoming a more of an initiate, right? More of a woman who really has the eye to see the red flags, right? And to actually act on them by blocking people and not having contact and things like that. But this is what happened because I believe, yeah, and this is I want to go into this a little bit more because again, as I said in the beginning, I believe, and this is something that I've recently really it clicked, and this is what I want to share with you. I believe that there are so many women out there on the internet like kind of portraying themselves as the victim, like I was with a narcissist and they're so bad and blah blah blah. Yes, they are bad, absolutely, I agree. But one thing that I realized is that you have probably been a covert narcissist as well, if we want to use the word narcissist, right? Y- That guy, he wanted something from you, whatever it was, whether it be your like your body, your the sex, or wanting the power over you, or also wanting to you to be the trophy girlfriend or the trophy wife. He wanted to exploit you for his own reasons. I'm just going to make it painted drastically, right? He wanted to exploit you for his own selfish reasons. And now it comes, and this is what I said and admitted, I also wanted to exploit him, even though I feel more like I got like fucked, you know. Um, I feel that this is most of the time that's what it is because a woman, and this is where dark femininity or dark psychology comes in. You also wanted something from him. And it wasn't love. It probably wasn't love. It wasn't like, oh, I like him so much. No, as I said with this guy, and this has been a pattern of mine. I admit it. I admit it. And I actually believe that this is a pattern of many, let's say, beautiful women who have access to the more like the high power men, or like they're not high value, yeah, but more of the look, the aesthetic of the athlete, of the businessman, of the whatever leader kind of alpha man aesthetic, whatever. I believe that this is a special dynamic between the beautiful woman who actually attract these high status man, for lack of a better word, um, that these women then portray themselves as, I am the victim, like he exploited me, but he could only exploit you because you also deep down in your subconscious, in your darkness, in your in your underbelly, you also wanted to exploit him, because most of the time, as I said, the men want you for your beauty, or because they want to possess you, or for the symbolism of the relationship, for the status symbol. But you too, you want his money. Probably you wanted his money, you wanted his status, you wanted a part of the fantasy as well. And most of the time, because a woman doesn't dare to ask for what she wants, and being like, yeah, I want the money, right? I want your money and you have to pay. Or I will only be with you if you give me this, this, this. And then it becomes more of a, let's call it business deal for lack of a better word. But I personally believe that having an open business deal is better than to pretend as a woman that you actually want nothing but love. No, you don't. And no, you don't want nothing but love. You want the status, you want the security that you think that he's going to bring. You want the money. You also want the aesthetic because it looks so good to be with this athlete, or with this millionaire, with this celebrity, with this guy. It looks so good. I love me in the picture with him, right? We want something too, but most of the time we don't dare to ask for what we want. And that is the key to not being exploited, to be able to realize, okay, what do I actually want out of this? Right? So you're not only the victim if you're the naive woman, you're if at all, you're not only naive to the fact that there are predators and evil people out there who will come to exploit you, but you're most probably naive to your own darkness. If we even want to call it darkness, like it's not really dark, but it's most of the time we have to mature into that consciousness, right? That actually, yeah, I want money too. I want resources too. And if I'm giving my energy to you, I want to have a compensation. Like, what is the exchange here? Can you give me something? Like, I'm going to give you something, and I know my value. I know exactly what I bring to the table, right? So what are you bringing to the table? Let's talk about it, or let's at least be honest about it. But if you're not honest with yourself about what you want, right? Like, just being like, okay, actually, I want him because I want him for my ego. That's a common saying, right? I want him for my ego. I want to see if I'm able to get him. Maybe that's what younger women do, right? You want to be able to see if your beauty, your flirting skills, or whatever can attract this handsome man, right? The football player, the athlete, or like the popular guy. And then as a woman, you think, ooh, I'm powerful because I was able to get him, which is like a false narrative, because you as a woman always lose. But that's the ego, that's the programming, that is our internal predator, that is our internal man, because the feminine doesn't really go out and hunt. We're just here minding our beautiful business, and if you want to come, you come, and I know I'm valuable if you like me or not. That should be the ideal. But I'm saying I was that naive woman as well. And as I said, and I'm coming to an end, because um that's it. So if you're being the good girl, want to please your parents, doesn't really say what's up to the outside world, but especially you don't really say what's up to yourself, and you're not really honest with yourself about your needs, your wants, your standards, your boundaries. You haven't done the inner work to find out that this is what you actually want in exchange for your beauty, for the status that you give for a man, your time, your womb, your energy, your love, right? So it's important to become conscious about your needs, wants, standards, boundaries, and then to be able to set those boundaries and say, this is what it takes for you to get to me. So, how did you like that? How do you like the idea? And I have to say, actually, I'm happy to have found this inside myself. And again, the last vestige, like the biggest challenge, I believe personally it has been for me, and I believe that's for everyone's psyche, um, it is to admit to oneself, because we have to break through the barrier of shame and all of that to come to the truth. And that was the hardest part, is to be able to admit to myself that I was a predator too, that I also wanted to exploit him, but I lost the whole game. And I believe women lose the whole game when they have internalized a predator, because a woman never really wants the superficial. We want the safety. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear from you. I think this is an amazing topic. And yeah, comment down below. Have you already discovered your internal predator, and how are you using her? All right, ladies. Until then, take care. Bye.